Okay, I'm going to go through the Who Am I activity with you, just in case you were not in class. This will give you a chance to do the activity that we did today in class. So I gave you a worksheet titled Who Am I? It looks like this. Okay, and there are several descriptions, and what you need to do, it's kind of like a series of hints so that you can figure out which element I'm talking about. Okay, I will do the first one with you, and then I am going to give you a little bit of pause time, and hopefully you will attempt to do the other ones by yourself, and then you can check the answers with me when you get a chance. All right, so let's get started. All right, so if you'll follow along with me on your sheet, number one says, my symbol doesn't seem to match my name. Well, just that by itself is not going to be super helpful. But it says my electrons use 5 energy levels. Okay, well, that's a pretty good hint. The number of energy levels, remember, is also the period number. So if it says it uses 5 energy levels, then it's going to be an element somewhere in period 5. Okay, remember, a row and a period are the same thing. So it's going to be somewhere in period 5 if it's using 5 energy levels to sort out its electrons. It says you can buy me at James Avery or other jewelry stores. And it also says I am a transition metal. Okay, so transition metals, those are your short columns. Okay, I know you're probably looking at a periodic table that's color-coded differently than this one, but remember, your transition metals are the short columns. I know I have to be in row 5 because I'm using 5 energy levels, and I know I have to be a transition metal. So if I look at my choices, yttrium, zirconium, niobium, molybdenum, technetium, ruthenium, rhodium, palladium, silver, and cadmium, probably the one you're thinking of as far as jewelry is concerned, hopefully, is silver. And that should make sense because it also says, the first hint, my symbol doesn't seem to match my name. Okay, so silver is in row 5. It's also a transition metal. Its symbol doesn't seem to match its name, and it can be used to make jewelry. So number 1 describes silver. Okay. Number 2. Go ahead and try 2 through 9 by yourself and see how you do. I'm going to let you go through there, so hit pause. And before you hit pause, actually, I'm going to remind you, remember that the rows, horizontal rows, the period numbers tells you the number of energy levels, the number of little circles that you use to put electrons in. But the column numbers, particularly the A column designations, are going to tell you the number of valence electrons. So everything in column 1 has 1 valence electron. Everything in column 2 has 2 valence electrons. We're not going to worry about the transition metals because the rules for them are a little bit different. We're only going to worry about the tall columns. Okay, this is column 3A or column 13. It's 3A because everything in this column has 3 valence electrons. Everything in this column has 4 valence electrons, 5 valence electrons, 6 valence electrons, 7 valence electrons, 8 valence electrons, except for helium. Okay, why is helium placed over here if it doesn't have 8 valence electrons? Well, if you remember, helium, okay, so helium is atomic number 2, which means it's going to have 2 protons, and if it's neutral, it's also going to have 2 electrons. And remember that the first energy level can only hold 2. So even though it only has 2 valence electrons, its energy level is full. And when its outer energy level is full, it's not reactive. Okay, so it's over here because it's not reactive. Neon, for instance, uses 2 energy levels. You've got 2 electrons in the first energy level and 8 electrons in the second energy level. But if you remember, 8 is all the second energy level can hold. So its outer energy level is full also, so it's not reactive. And that's going to be the situation with everything in that column. That's why helium is placed over there, even though it only has 2 valence electrons. Okay, so hit your pause button and take a few minutes, see if you can figure out what each one of these are, and then join me in a few minutes. Okay, did you just leave it playing, or did you actually hit pause so that you would do the exercises? Please try to do these. Okay, I'm going to trust that you have given this a shot and now you're just checking your answers. Number 2, it says, I'm a non-metal, but I'm isolated from my other non-metal friends. Isolated means you're separated from. Okay, so your non-metals, again, every periodic table is color-coded a little bit differently, but your non-metals are going to be these green ones, these kind of lime green ones. These are non-metals. And hydrogen's a non-metal, okay? I'm a non-metal, but I'm isolated from my other non-metal friends. All of the other elements in my family are solids, but I am a gas, okay? I am lighter than helium, but much more reactive. Well, helium is element number 2. The only element lighter than helium is going to be hydrogen. And that looks right because hydrogen is sitting over here by itself. It's the only non-metal on the left-hand side of the table. Why is hydrogen over there? It's because it has one valence electron like everything else in that column. And because of that, it's very reactive. So number 2 is hydrogen. Okay, number 3, I live underneath the stairs. Okay, so here's the little stair step line. So I live underneath the stairs. I'm somewhere in here. But I'm not a metalloid, so it's not germanium, it's not antimony. I have 3 valence electrons. If I had 3 valence electrons, I have to be in this column here. Thallium and I are in the same family. So I'm not thallium, but I'm in the same family as thallium. Okay? It's not going to be boron because it says I'm not a metalloid. So it's going to be either aluminum, gallium, or indium. I usually have 14 neutrons. Okay. This is going to be 115 minus 49 to get the neutrons. That is not going to be 14. 70 minus 31 to give me neutrons. That's not going to be 14 either. 27 minus 13 will give me 14 neutrons. So number 3 is aluminum. Number 4, I make up 78% of the air you breathe. My electrons use 2 energy levels. My mass number is usually 14. Okay. So I make up 78% of the air you breathe. You might know what it is, but you might not. And it's not oxygen. My electrons use 2 energy levels. If my electrons use 2 energy levels, that means I am somewhere in row number 2. Notice on this particular key, if the symbol is written in red, that means it's a gas at room temperature. And guys, if you're breathing it, it's got to be a gas. So it's got to be in row number 2, and it's got to be a gas. Okay, my mass number is usually 14. Well, I look, and this one is the one that's closest to 14. So usually nitrogen has a mass of 14. Okay, number 4 is nitrogen. Number 5, my nickname is Quicksilver. Barium and I are in the same period. Okay, barium is right here. So I'm in the same period with barium. My atomic number is between gold and lead. Okay. Here's gold. Here's lead. I'm between gold and lead, so I'm one of these two. But I'm chemically similar to zinc. If something is chemically similar, it's probably in the same column. So who's in the same column with zinc? Here's zinc. Go down, and it's going to be mercury. Okay? Mercury is actually a liquid at room temperature, and if it gets poured, it moves very quickly, and it's very shiny, so that's why its nickname is Quicksilver. Number 6, I am present in all organic compounds. I can form many compounds since I have 4 valence electrons. Okay, if I've got 4 valence electrons, that tells me I have to be in column 4A. So it's either carbon, silicon, germanium, tin, which is Sn, or lead, which is Pb. Chemically, I'm more similar to tin than I am to oxygen. Why? Because tin is in my column. So I'm not talking about tin, but I'm talking about one of the other 4 things in that column. I'm more similar to tin than I am to oxygen, even though oxygen and I are both nonmetals. So I've just told you that what I'm talking about is a nonmetal. The only nonmetal in column 4A is carbon. Number 7. I have 2 valence electrons, but my electrons use the same number of energy levels as arsenic. Okay, if I have 2 valence electrons, that puts me in column 2. So I'm somewhere in this column. And I use the same number of energy levels as arsenic. So I'm going to be in the same row as arsenic. There's arsenic. So I have to be in this row, period 4, and I have to be in column 2, and that's going to be calcium. Okay, and that makes sense because the other hint is I am a mineral that your body needs. Who am I? Calcium. Okay, I'm going to pause this screencast and I'm going to do the rest of it, the last 2 on this page and then the other 2 on the other side, or the other ones on the other side I'll do on a separate screencast.